The response to COVID from many of our leaders is purely political. Look, COVID's a serious illness, particularly for those that are over the age of 75. And as I said from the beginning, we should be doing everything we can to protect that population. But the rest of us should be trying to get back to life as normal as soon as possible. Now, we're told constantly that it's Trump supporters and Trump's fault. It's the fact that people don't wear masks. But oftentimes it's overlooked that there are so many establishment and Democratic leaders, particularly those that are the first to cast blame on other people, want people prosecuted for not following CDC guidelines, that are they themselves unwilling to follow those same guidelines and make the sacrifices they're asking of other Americans. And this week we see even greater examples of that, so I'd like to go through a bunch of them right now. Now, the first we have is after we saw Joe Biden violate his own mask order 2 hours afterwards by taking photos with 8 people at the Lincoln Memorial not wearing masks. Yeah, that's right. He signed an executive order saying you have to wear a mask on federal property, and then the first thing he did was violate that order. We were told by Press Secretary Psaki that that was okay because he was celebrating. I said back then, we'll see what they say when people want to celebrate the Super Bowl. So, of course, the Democratic mayor of Tampa Bay came out and said she's appalled that she saw so many people celebrating the Super Bowl without wearing masks. She can't believe it, and that she's going to be actively trying to hunt those people down and prosecute them. Only one problem. Do you think she'll hold herself to the same standard? So let's see what the venerable mayor of Tampa Bay was up to recently. Here she is at a Tampa Bay Lightning game. Notice that she's not wearing a mask here, and there's a small child next to her. Think of the damage that could be caused to that child's lungs. She's indoor in a stadium and yet not wearing a mask. Now, clearly the person beside her understands the importance of a mask, but somehow she chose not to. Here's another photo of her. This was taken in our own city in October after mask mandates went in order. Notice she seems to be at a fun little gathering there with a lot of people not wearing masks, standing shoulder to shoulder. I wonder, do you think prosecutors will come for her? Will she be suggesting that she be prosecuted along with all those other fans? Methinks not. It's always one set of rules for them and another for everyone else. But that's not all. Let's go to an actual prosecutor who's looking in to prosecuting these people. Washington Examiner for today. Another elected Democrat in hot water for skirting coronavirus restrictions. Let's read a little of this. A Democrat public official in California is facing criticism for potentially violating the state's coronavirus restrictions. Contra Costa County District Attorney Diana Becton reportedly held a gathering which consisted of dozens of attendees on August 1st of last year during a statewide search in cages. Becton, who refrained from referring to the event as a reception, said it hosted 25 to 30 family members and took place between 3 p.m. and 7 p.m., although neighbors say the celebration lasted into the night. Becton also said that social distancing measures were taken. Last year, Becton's office was tasked with cracking down on coronavirus restriction violators. One of Becton's retired neighbors, Carol Toms, told the San Francisco Chronicle she was, quote, aghast that somebody would do that, and at first didn't know who Becton was, but was upset after learning she was an elected official. That's when I got really upset, Tom said. No surprise here, the poor suckers are locked down, and the people that have power get to do what they want. What, rules pertain to me? Center for the American Liberty CEO Hamid Dillon agreed with Tom's characterization. Quote, she would have to be deaf, dumb, and blind to not know that our governor and our state health officials have strongly discouraged and at times banned gatherings of any kind. But that's just one in a long example. Let's go to another Examiner article. Democrats keep getting caught breaking their own coronavirus rules. Prominent Democrats have been breaking their own coronavirus restrictions since the pandemic hit. California Governor Newsom, Speaker of the House Pelosi, Mayor Muriel Bowser, Philadelphia Mayor Jim Kenney, New York Mayor Bill de Blasio, and others have all been slammed for hypocrisy. Recently, photos of Newsom dining in the swanky French restaurant with people from other households and not wearing a mask appeared online and went viral. Also in California, Pelosi was spotted at a hair salon at the end of August despite coronavirus restrictions such as keeping establishments closed from March until September 1st. Philadelphia's mayor apologized after he spotted eating inside a Maryland restaurant this summer, despite residents in his city being banned from doing the same. This month, the mayor of Washington, D.C. attended President-elect Joe Biden victory speech in Delaware, breaking her own coronavirus restrictions. New York's mayor has been criticized for walking in Brooklyn's Prospect Park, which is 11 miles from Gracie Mansion, despite telling New Yorkers to follow stay-at-home orders earlier this year. In April, Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot defended getting a haircut and despite salons being closed at the time, saying, quote, I'm the public face of this city. I'm on national media, and I'm out in the public eye. In Michigan, Governor Gretchen Whitmer also faced backlash in June for attending a march against police brutality while not social distancing. Additionally, Whitmer's husband also faced backlash for requesting his boat be placed in the water ahead of Memorial Day this year, even after his wife told Michiganders to think long and hard about traveling. Lightfoot again faced criticism for joining crowds in Chicago and was recorded at one point not wearing a mask after the presidential election. The scene came just days before she established a 30-day stay-at-home advisory and told people to cancel traditional Thanksgiving plans. This week, video footage of women confronting New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy went viral as he dined in a restaurant. Governor Andrew Cuomo canceled his Thanksgiving plans after he was met with harsh backlash for saying his 89-year-old mother would join him for the holiday after he spent weeks telling New Yorkers that Thanksgiving celebrations must be downsized. So we can see this happens over and over, and that's not even an exhaustive list. Just off the top of my head, Dr. Birx, who was second in charge basically after Dr. Fauci, was basically forced to resign after she told people to stay at home for Thanksgiving, yet traveled so that she could hang out with her family. We saw in Pennsylvania, my state, Governor Tom Wolf told people that were worried about their businesses being closed and them losing their source of income for that. He said if you were concerned and wanted to go back to work, that you were a, quote, coward, and were being a coward in the face of COVID. And then 2 weeks after he made that statement, he violated his own orders to march with Black Lives Matter. So over and over, if this was serious, if they were really concerned that this was a life-threatening illness that could affect millions of people, why are they violating the orders that they're telling the rest of us we have to follow? Over and over and over. When will people wake up? If they're unwilling to follow the orders, either they don't believe the orders or they're too selfish to care. And either way, they should be swiftly removed from office. But that's just the beginning. You might say, well, that's just a handful of people. Well, let's look at what else came out this week. So the CDC has been having more strict policies to try to spread another outbreak from the virus. So one of the things they had to do was people coming in or flying on airplanes. Let's see what they suggest. On January 12, 2021, the CDC announced an order requiring all air passengers arriving to the U.S. from a foreign country to get tested no more than 3 days before their flight departs and to present the negative result or documentation having COVID-19 to the airline before boarding the flight. So this would apply even if you're an American citizen who went to a foreign country. To get back on American soil, even though you're legally allowed to be here, you have to present a negative COVID test. This could be very burdensome. What happens if you need to get back in the country, but you can't test negative for this? Now, people will defend this and say it's important. We shouldn't have people entering the country from foreign countries if they could possibly be spreading COVID. But as always, see, you're just an American. You're just a legal person here. That doesn't entitle you to as much rights as, say, an elected leader that could do what they want, or illegals that don't have to follow the same rules that you have. That's right. Joe Biden's administration has no problem releasing illegals into the country, even though they haven't had a COVID test. On Friday, the White House was asked about this policy. This is Kristen Fisher from Fox News. Quote, what could be done to provide COVID testing to migrants at the border? Because right now, the U.S. Customs and Border Protection saying they're having to catch and release some migrants without giving them any kind of COVID test before they're entering the community. So what is being done? What could be done? Press Secretary Psaki, quote, are you suggesting they're letting people across the border without testing them? Or tell me a little bit about, Fisher responds, they're being released. They're having to release them because of the executive order that the president signed earlier this week. Psaki says, which executive order? Which one? People who actually know the details of what's going on right now, not Psaki, are very worried. Quote, we do not test illegal aliens we release, Brandon Judd, president of the National Border Patrol Council, told Tucker Carlson. So we're releasing people without knowing, which obviously puts the public at risk. Yuma County, Arizona Sheriff Leon Wilmot wrote a letter last week to Senator Kristen Sinema in which he called the Biden administration's new policy, quote, a particular dangerous approach. Quote, there is currently no protocol for testing any of these people for COVID-19 virus. Nor is there any support being offered from the federal government to house, feed, medically treat, or transport these illegal immigrants. In other words, they get people, illegals, and they let them, not only should they be detaining them and not leaving illegals in like this, so it's basically just catch and release and an open border policy, which will encourage more illegals to come, they're not even testing them for COVID. Now, do you think that they're taking COVID seriously if untold amounts of people could come through the border from places that probably have less COVID testing and restrictions in the United States and just let them in willy-nilly to go wherever they want amongst the community? Yet you, if you are a legal citizen and you get off an airplane, you have to go through more testing. This is all political. Illegals are a protected class. It's part of the cultural Marxism. They're the oppressed, so they can do what they want. They have more rights than you in many ways. And so they don't care about COVID, or they wouldn't be releasing people that haven't been tested into whatever community they wanted to go, while they're telling you, no, you have to be locked down. No, you have to go through a negative COVID test before you could get back into your own country. This hypocrisy is absurd, and people need to wake up that this is about being detrimental to your rights. The lockdowns were a mistake from the get-go. These people are hypocrites that are unwilling to make the sacrifices they're asking of other Americans. And yet all we hear from the average Democrat or left-wing person when I ask them this is, but Trump, but Trump, but Trump, but Trump. They don't care that the Democratic elected leaders are this hypocritical and have such a double standard when it comes to COVID protections. Hey, if you like this video, please like and subscribe. Consider donating. All the links will be below. I put out a new video about 4 p.m. every day, and every weekday at 8 p.m. I'll be doing a live stream that you could find on YouTube or Twitch. Thanks so much, everyone, and as always, have a good one.